Croatia then registering their first win in the tournament, enough to keep their hopes alive of qualifying for the knockout stages. Panama are done.
The football world thought Croatia were finished, and Croatia may have just delivered the perfect response. One match into the 2026 World Cup, they'd conceded 4 goals to England. Their biggest stars were approaching the end of legendary careers. Luka Modrić was 40 years old. Ivan Perisic was 37. The conversation wasn't about how far Croatia could go. It was about whether this generation had anything left at all. Then came Panama. A match Croatia absolutely had to win. A match where Panama outshot them 8-6. A match where Dominik Livaković needed a fingertip save onto the crossbar to prevent what could have been a tournament-ending goal. And yet, when the pressure became unbearable, Croatia found a way. A half-time tactical adjustment, one decisive cross, one finish from Ante Budimir, and suddenly a team scaring at elimination was alive again. But this story isn't really about Panama. It's about a nation that reached the 2018 World Cup final, finished third in 2022, won some of the biggest knockout matches of the last decade, and continues to thrive in the exact moments that break most teams. So, why does the football world keep underestimating Croatia? Why do they keep surviving when logic says they shouldn't? And after Modric's historic 200th international appearance, is this aging squad actually heading toward one final World Cup run? This is why the world may have overlooked Croatia one last time.
Croatia didn't arrive in Toronto as a team the world feared anymore. They arrived as a team the world was finally ready to dismiss. For nearly a decade, they'd made a habit of embarrassing predictions. 2018 World Cup final, 2022 semi-final, third place. But by 2026, the question had changed. No longer, how far can Croatia go? Now it was, how much longer can this generation actually keep this up? Not an unreasonable question. Modrić is 40, Perisic is 37, Kovacic well into his 30s, Kramaric approaching 35. Still tournament intelligent, still technically sharp, but carrying years and mileage that could no longer be ignored. Then England made those questions significantly louder. Croatia's opener was supposed to show whether the old machine still had enough control and sharpness to compete. Instead, England beat them 4-2, and the damage wasn't just the scoreline, it was how Croatia were pulled apart. England moved the ball early, attacked spaces before Croatia could settle, forced their midfield to turn and run rather than dictate. Croatia's whole identity is built on control, Modrić slowing the game, Kovacic carrying through pressure, the backline stepping high to compress the pitch. Against England, that control cracked. They still scored twice, so the attacking quality was clearly still there. But without the ball, they looked exactly as vulnerable as people feared. Poor in defensive transitions, slow in recovery runs, exposed behind the fullbacks. England didn't just beat them, they handed the rest of the tournament a blueprint: move the ball early, attack before Croatia reset, make the veterans defend facing their own goal. And football moves fast when it senses decline. Attention shifted elsewhere. England looked strong, Ghana looked dangerous, younger nations were becoming the headlines. Croatia, the team that had played 7 matches at each of the last 2 World Cups, were being discussed like a great old side trying to squeeze out one last chapter before the lights went out. Group L only got more complicated. England were held 0-0 with Ghana, which kept the table tight, but it also meant England on 4 points, Ghana on 4, Panama already beaten, Croatia on 1 point and needing a win against Panama to keep anything alive. The table was brutal in its simplicity. Lose and the World Cup is effectively over. Draw and you're on 1 point hoping for miracles on the final day. Win and you drag yourself back into the conversation. That was the real weight behind the Panama match. And Panama weren't there to make it comfortable. They came in knowing defeat would eliminate them, so they played accordingly. Pressed in moments, defended compactly, attacked Croatia's wide areas with Murillo and Christian Martinez sending balls into dangerous zones. By the middle of the first half, Croatia weren't controlling anything. Then, in the 23rd minute, Murillo delivered from the right, Rodriguez met it with a header, and the ball was heading into danger before Livaković pushed it onto the crossbar. At 0-0, Croatia were already nervous. At 1-0 down, with England and Ghana already on 4 points, the tournament could have started slipping away entirely. That save stopped panic from becoming reality. The final numbers told the story of how uncomfortable it was. Panama had 8 attempts to Croatia's 6, 7 corners to Croatia's 2, 26 crosses to Croatia's 19. Croatia had more possession and completed more passes, but Panama were asking the sharper questions in the areas that actually hurt. That's what made the night so dangerous. Croatia weren't playing like a team in command, they were playing like a team trying to remember how to survive. The pressure sat on everyone. On Dalić, because another poor result turned aging squad into end of an era. On Modrić, whose 200th international appearance was supposed to be historic, not desperate. On the whole team, because their recent World Cup identity had been built on resilience, and now that resilience was being tested before they'd even reached the knockouts. So the question going into the second half wasn't whether Croatia was still famous, it was whether they were still dangerous. Because for 45 minutes in Toronto, they'd stood right on the edge of elimination, and for the first time in years, the world had genuine reason to wonder if this was finally the end.
Panama were not supposed to make Croatia look this uncomfortable. For long stretches in Toronto, that's exactly what happened. People will forget this once they see the final score. Croatia won 1-0, Budimir scored, Modrić celebrated 200 caps, Panama went home. But before that goal arrived, Panama had made this a genuinely difficult evening. They played like a team with nothing to lose, pressed in moments, attacked quickly on turnovers, dragged Croatia into exactly the kind of game they didn't want. Messy, physical, direct, full of second balls. Croatia wanted rhythm, Panama wanted disruption. For long stretches, Panama got what they wanted. The numbers: 8 Panama attempts to Croatia's 6, 7 corners to 2, 26 crosses to 19. Murillo on the right was the main problem, actually attacking space rather than standing wide for decoration, forcing Croatian defenders to face their own goal. Panama's plan wasn't to play through Croatia with intricate combinations, it was to get the ball into dangerous areas and wait for one mistake. 23rd minute, it nearly worked. Murillo delivered. Rodriguez headed toward goal. Livaković got across and tipped it onto the crossbar. That was Croatia's most important moment of the first half. Not the goal, that save. At 1-0 down, with England and Ghana already on 4 points each, the tournament starts closing in very quickly. Livaković didn't just stop a header, he stopped panic arriving early. Croatia had possession, completed more passes, and still looked uncomfortable. Possession isn't control if it doesn't move the opponent or reduce the danger. Panama had the discomfort, Croatia had the ball. Dalić fixed it at half-time. Gvardiol off, Musa off, Kramaric and Budimir on. Direct solutions to first half problems. Budimir gave Croatia a penalty box reference, a body for defenders to track, a runner who knows where the final ball arrives. Kramaric gave them intelligence between the lines. Croatia became more direct without becoming desperate. 9 minutes after the restart, Pasalic opened the route down the right. Stanisic crossed, Budimir timed his run at the back post and forced it in. 1-0. Not spectacular, not built from 25 passes, one delivery, one run, one defensive lapse punished. Deeply, specifically Croatian. Their greatest strength has never been dominance, it's been patience under stress, looking uncomfortable without collapsing, losing control without losing structure, surviving long enough for one opening, then taking it. Panama kept pushing, corners piling up, fresh legs arriving late. Croatia managed it. That's experience, not in brilliance, the kind that tells you when to slow it down, when to accept pressure, when to stop pretending every win needs to look convincing. Modric's 200 cap gave the night a different layer entirely. First cap in 2006. Every major Croatian football memory since runs through him. The ovation when he left the pitch wasn't just for a famous player, it was for what he still represents. Croatia beat Panama 1-0, but the scoreline doesn't explain the match. Panama had more shots, more corners, more crosses, and made Croatia defend and suffer throughout, which is exactly why the win mattered. This wasn't Croatia reminding anyone they could dominate. This was Croatia reminding everyone they could survive. In World Cup football, survival is sometimes the first sign a dangerous team is waking up. Croatia are dangerous because they don't need a perfect game to beat you. That's the part people keep misunderstanding. Most elite teams announce themselves through control and dominance. Croatia announce themselves by still being there when you thought they'd gone. Their entire modern World Cup identity is built on surviving periods that should have finished them, then punishing the one moment the opponent relaxes. 2018, penalties against Denmark, penalties against Russia, extra time against England after conceding early. They reached the final anyway. 2022, Japan took them to extra time in the round of 16. Brazil, with Neymar, Vinicius and Richarlison, led in extra time in the quarterfinal. Croatia had one shot on target in that entire match, and it came in the 117th minute when Petković equalized. They won on penalties. Again. That's not luck repeating itself across two tournaments. That's identity. Panama became the latest chapter of the same story. Didn't finish when the window opened. Croatia survived, adjusted, and punished one lapse. Tournament over for Panama, alive for Croatia. So, Ghana cannot walk into the final group game treating Croatia like a wounded old team. Croatia have 3 points, a clean sheet, a goalkeeper who already made a tournament-saving save, and Modric's 200th cap ending in victory rather than elimination. The survival instinct is clearly still working. The world made this mistake in 2018, made it again in 2022. After the England defeat, they were ready to make it a third time. Then Toronto happened. You don't have to fear Croatia when they're winning comfortably. You should fear them when everyone else has stopped believing in them.